This is Now Showing.
Hello and welcome to Now Showing.
I'm Beau.
I'm Ben.
And this is the podcast where we argue about movies.
And this week's review, it's a rather icy tale. It's a rather grisly tale. It's The Revenant.
The Revenant is one of the most critically anticipated films of both 2015 and 2016 if you're in Australia. Directed by Alejandro González Iñárritu, who picked up 3 Oscars last year for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Writing. Safe to say, we're expecting great things from his next feature. The Revenant follows the harsh existence of colonial settlers in 1800s North America. If battling the sub-freezing elements isn't hard enough, these settlers also face threats from the native humans and the native fauna. By that I mean grizzly bears. Leonardo DiCaprio stars in this real, raw, and freaking ambitious film. It's all shot in natural light. There's a wild and badass Tom Hardy lurking around every corner, and at one point, Leo may or may not be eating a real, raw bison liver. With all these brutal sequences and realism that I honestly haven't seen in a film before, I was on the edge of my seat to see where the storyline would take me. From a guy who loves a little bit of film wank and artistic flair with storytelling, this feature honestly went a little over my head. I feel like there was more meaning and another level to many of the scenes in The Revenant, but I couldn't quite grasp the full significance of each sequence. Perhaps it may reveal itself with a second watching, or perhaps I need to research Native American beliefs and customs before I'm able to identify fully with the film, but either way, I left the cinema feeling like the director's vision was a little above me. Having said that, I would still recommend everyone watch this film. Not because I think it's a masterpiece, nor because the storytelling is beyond compare, but because there isn't a film like it. The feelings you get from watching this brutal and realistic movie can't be recreated with anything else. So while I give The Revenant a 3-star review, I still say that this is a film you should rush to see as if I told you it was 5 stars. And yes, the grizzly bear attack is freaking off the rails. The Revenant. It made me feel kind of stupid. 3 stars.
So you're saying there's not a film like this?
No.
It's just a survival film. Like you put the character in the forest and then they survive through a whole bunch of stuff, and then scene after scene, something bad happens to them. I came out and I described it to someone as gravity in a forest. To be honest, if I'm being honest, I got the directors Alejandro and Alfonso Cuarón confused. I thought this was the film after Gravity. As I was watching, I was like, and it made total sense. It was it felt like an organic next film after that one. It was like, okay, I did Gravity and it had a lot of visual effects. And
Survival in space.
Yeah, and let's bring that down to a really real level. It felt like they went, oh, enough visual effects and all that jazz. Let's just do it real with no lighting and just wide angles right up next to the actors in the forest. Let's do that. And it felt organic, but obviously it was a different director and I got really confused. But it's just like Gravity. It's Gravity in a forest.
It's really not. It's really not. Like, Gravity is silent and intense, and yes, you get that anxiety for a lot of the things in Gravity, but it's not. You don't get a similar feeling. Watching Gravity and watching this is way more horrifying, way more brutal, and everything that happened during the film was just like, oh God. Ugh.
I agree with you entirely that it feels like there's more. It feels like it's about something more.
Yeah.
Like, if there were cliff notes that said, oh, every scene in this film alludes to a famous poem, or that it's a classic journey of something, I wouldn't be surprised. As you said it very accurately when it was like, it went over your head. It feels like there's more happening than just a guy surviving in the woods.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm not picking up on it. I don't know. Like, I feel like there is more there, but I don't know what it is.
Same. Yeah. Because to me, it's a very simple film. It's, instead of asteroids attacking, a bear attacks. And then he's left on his own, and thing after thing happens until eventually he gets back. The only difference is, spoilers for Gravity, if you haven't seen that, is that they give him someone else to fight at the end there. And So, where do you want to start with this? Do you want to start
I feel like you've taken this, like, I got a little bit out of this, like, on some of the levels, but not all of it. I feel like you've like, taken it down 3 steps of what I got out of it.
Well, Gravity feels really hollow once you finished it. It's, like, impressive and amazing, and, like, there's a lot of...
But it ends and you're just like, well, so what?
Yeah, and that's how I felt with this film. Well, that's actually how I felt with this film approaching the last scenes, when... Obviously, we've seen the film, so we're talking about spoilers here. But at the end there, where he's fighting Tom Hardy, I was like, oh, okay, I know where this goes. And no amount of violent knifing and that sort of thing was impressive. No amount of that was sort of doing it for me. I knew where the film was going. It was sort of like, at the end, have Gravity. She lands on the Earth. Boom, done. Okay, gotta stop comparing it to Gravity.
You really should.
Okay, so where do you want to start? Do you want to start at the beginning or do you want to start at the end here?
Start at the beginning.
At the beginning?
Yeah.
Bear fight was cool.
Fuck yeah.
Was
my
great.
God. Just even before the bear fight, the introduction, the opening sequence with the Indians attacking the fur traders' camp. Like they were skinning these elk and deer and whatever, basically trying to make a mint off the furs that you can't get further south in America. So they've traveled into the now Canada regions of North America, where Indians are still have a really big presence. So high risk, but you can't get those furs anywhere else. So they're super lucrative.
And their little gang gets attacked by some Indians, and they hop on some boats and they sail the river. And
taking as many furs as they can.
And there's a bunch of tension between Tom Hardy,
and
Leonardo
everyone.
DiCaprio.
Tom Hardy and everyone. Everyone hates Tom Hardy.
I mean, because he's awesome and they're all jealous of how cool he is.
It's not like Tom Hardy is just saying, we're just saying what
He was
I'm just
so
saying what you're
hard
all
to
thinking.
understand. He was so difficult to understand. It's like his thing now. Or was it always his thing?
He did less grunting. No, it's not always his thing, because if you think back to when he was with Leonardo DiCaprio again in Inception,
Yeah, he was really
quite
articulate.
eloquent.
Yeah. And Domhnall Gleeson's being typecast as the young leader of a group of people. He's either in that or he's in movies about robots, is my understanding.
You know, it's like Black Mirror episode, and
which is just the opposite of the Ex Machina thing.
Ex Machina.
Yeah.
And then you have Star Wars and The Revenant, where he
seems to be intentionally cast as the young leader of a group so that
But
they
in
can't
Star
control.
Wars-
he can't control them. Pardon me.
But in Star Wars, he's evil as shit. But in The Revenant, he's like super moral, and is doing right, but trying to be a good man and do right by everyone, which I think was like, he was a very admirable character, I thought.
Yeah, and he's good. He was good in this.
Yeah.
I thought in Star Wars, for example, he was a little out of place. I thought that the casting of him made it really jarring.
Yeah.
Like trying to allude to Hitler and Napoleon and stuff. But I didn't think it worked in Star Wars as well as it works here. He genuinely couldn't control Tom Hardy, for example.
Yeah.
And when Tom Hardy says to him, I'll look after him for the extra reward money, and you saw Domhnall Gleeson, or whatever his character's name was, sort of look at him and go, are you really going to try and keep Leonardo DiCaprio alive? I don't know how to test this, so I'll let you do it. Which was the biggest plot contrivance in the entire thing.
But there was no one else that would stay back.
Why did they arbitrarily need 3? Well, couldn't 2 have done it?
Though they were both young, They were both...
I'd prefer 2 young guys than 2 young guys and 1 guy that wants to kill him to leave behind and look after Leonardo DiCaprio. I thought that was really contrived. And the moment that happens, you think, you're a really bad leader.
Okay.
So obviously we're talking about the bit after DiCaprio gets mauled by the bear, and he's got some recovery period.
Yeah.
And they're trying to drag him up the icy mountain, and they decide to leave some people there until he dies.
Yeah. Leonardo DiCaprio versus bear. Leonardo DiCaprio wins. Leonardo DiCaprio wins.
Just with like 1 bar of health left.
Yeah, exactly. like red flashing on the screen.
And it was such a surprise when the bear attacks a second time.
Yeah.
That for me, like I thought he could survive that first attack, and when the bear comes back, you're like, I don't know how he could survive this. And
it was so good, and it was so well orchestrated, the whole attack. Because if you've seen any bear attacks or like on footage or
Where have you seen bear attacks?
I may or may not have seen it on like America's what is
Deadliest prey.
Yeah, America's deadliest animals. This is where grizzly bear attack, completely unprovoked.
So how did that compare to the scene in The Revenant?
I
How was the bear's performance?
so much better.
Do you think he's up for Best Supporting?
Yeah. Like I think Tom Hardy, look out.
Actually, so I mean that's the thing. Leonardo DiCaprio is supposedly up for the Oscar for this one, right?
Yeah.
Do you think he deserves it?
Before I saw the film, I would have said hell yeah. Now that I've seen the film, I feel like
Half the film he was lying on his back whimpering.
I feel like I feel like most of the impressiveness of the film and the raw realistic scenes is more to do with the director of photography, more to do with the writing, and more to do with the visual aspects as opposed to Leonardo DiCaprio's performance.
Yeah, and I don't feel like he did too much, to be honest. I mean, I made a flippant joke before about him lying on his back, but when he recovered, he wasn't doing too much, if that makes sense. Even on his vengeance trip, he didn't have to have a monologue or anything, but something. You know, there wasn't a scene that you can remember as, oh, I remember DiCaprio in that scene. That was amazing. Or remember that moment that really made you feel. As even, for example, his son's death.
When he gets killed in front of him.
Yeah.
Well, that was I think with the little amount that Leonardo DiCaprio had to work with, I think he did really, really well.
But I was really pleased that scene was so short in the film. So Tom Hardy has just killed his son in front of him, and DiCaprio can't get up to fight him off or do anything.
He's completely helpless.
And Tom Hardy drags the boy off and dumps him in the woods. DiCaprio finds him later and curls up with him in the snow, sort of prepares to die, and surprised in the morning that he didn't die. I was really glad that sequence in the film was so short. And unfortunately, it never comes back. I mean, that's the reason he's hunting Tom Hardy down. And it did add a little bit more severity to it than him just leaving DiCaprio in the woods. But I was just imagining the film without the son.
Oh, right.
Like, the film would still sort of work, but it turns DiCaprio into a dick.
Yeah.
He chases Tom Hardy down.
You left me for dead!
And then kills him.
Yeah.
And leaves him for dead. I mean, it would turn DiCaprio into a bit of a dick. But the son character doesn't really come back, if that makes sense.
Well, he's the main drive.
Plot motivation. Yeah.
No, he's the main drive. Like, I think the son and family aspect of the film is what went above me. I feel like a lot of what his wife was whispering, a lot of the lines to do with, the solidarity of a tree and, they may be blowing in the wind, but the trunk is always not moving, unmoving. I feel like other than getting the base message of, solidarity and you weather any storm sort of thing, and just survival, I didn't pick up what I feel was more deeper meaning that was alluded to. And I feel like that was to do with mostly with the family connections, including his son, including his wife.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a film before this film that we missed. Imagine the sort of Dances with Wolves film.
Yeah.
Where DiCaprio meets the wife and has the child. And that was, and the kid survives to the end of the first film, but doesn't survive to the end of the second film. That would make us feel for him. I'm not saying I wanted to see at the head of this film, for example, but similarly like you, I don't understand why he was what the significance of him being an Indian was.
What, because he's half Indian? He had an Indian wife.
Should we say Native American? What
Native,
do we say?
Yeah, Native.
Oh,
I don't
shit. What do we say?
Native American, like,
but he's not like from India.
No, you have Native American Indians.
Yeah, I know, but should we say Native American Indians? Do we have to say the whole thing?
I don't know. Just Native Americans?
Like you, similarly.
So he's half Native American. So he had a Native American wife.
Yeah.
And
so the son is
half.
But
That's why they call him a crossbreed.
Anyway, oh shit. Oh, can't say that. Can we say that on the radio? We're not on the radio. Anyway, I don't understand what the significance of that was. Why was that more important than him being just a white kid?
Because that was a lot of the issue that the men had with him, is that they only look at his, that side of him.
What men had a problem with him? Only Tom Hardy seemed to have a problem with him. And it seemed to justify Tom Hardy's killing of the boy a little bit more. It seemed to be like he saw the son as inferior. But and was the intention of that to make Tom Hardy more endearing? Because he certainly wasn't endearing.
Oh God, no.
Or to justify the killing?
I think it's to justify so that Tom Hardy could partially justify it to himself. Secondly, it's also a way for Leonardo DiCaprio's character to speak Pawnee?
Pawnee.
Is it Pawnee?
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think it's so the tribe. But the specific tribe.
So what we're giving you is a really layman's view of the film here.
So the tribe that the tribe that his wife and son are from, and that's the dialect that he speaks. So having Leonardo DiCaprio being able to speak at least a dialect of Native American and communicate is a very, very important aspect of his character, because he has more empathy for the Native American people, or as Tom Hardy calls them, savages.
And DiCaprio didn't really fight back at any stage, did he? He sort of ran from the attack in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then randomly, 2/3 of the way through the film, he saves a Native American girl from being systematically raped in another group.
The French.
Was it? I thought it was another American
No,
group.
it was a group of French.
Oh, and so the French lied to them straight up, did they?
Yeah,
was that the same?
They were the ones that stole. So
okay,
they were the ones that stole the daughter, which is the Indian chief that was after. Like he was basically coming after those Americans.
The Native American Liam Neeson.
Yeah,
they've taken my daughter.
He's lost his daughter, so he goes after the Americans to try and find and track her down. That's the whole reason why they're hunting the Americans. Is because his daughter has been stolen, and he thinks that they have her. Turns out the French, and he goes to the French, trades the pelts that he stole from the Americans to get horses to then go search for his daughter. And the French are the ones that stole his daughter anyway.
See, that'll take another viewing for me to agree with you on that, because I was sure they were the American ones.
No, definitely French.
Okay.
Promise.
Okay, you. I'll let you off with that one. So yeah, he sneaks into the French or possibly the American group, saves the girl, and they run away, and then she flees again, and he's on his own. And then
she flees one way, he flees the other on a horse.
Yeah. And then magically at the very end there, he leaves after him and Tom Hardy have stabbed each other a bunch. He lets Tom Hardy down the river, and they all get their vengeance on Tom Hardy somehow, sort of.
But there was no communication from her. Like, you just all of a sudden she's back with her tribe, and there was no communication from her that Leonardo DiCaprio was the one that released her and was the one that saved her.
I mean, obviously
the
that was
just like,
obviously that was there. I mean, you didn't need to see her whispering into the chief's ear, for example, and say, "Hey, spare him." Yeah. But it would have been nice to see them raise their arrows against him, and then, he thinks he's gone again, and that's where the whisper would come into, But they do pass him with the acknowledging look. Yeah, a sort of look that says, "Not thank you, but good work. You're okay.
We won't kill you this time."
Yeah, and they don't heal him or help him or anything. One small niggle with the earlier bear attack is that his leg is like dangling by a thread after the fight. There's one bit where he's dragging himself through the mud, and his ankle and his lower half of his leg is like just flopping around all over the place.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a little bit too much. I thought that was a bit of damage that he's not going to recover from, even with 6 months and a proper splint down his leg and all that stuff.
And it just was like a couple of weeks, and he was
walking around fine. Even in the fight with Tom Hardy, he was probably pumped up on adrenaline, but he's running up and down hills.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a little bit too quick.
But then again, the passage of time isn't really apparent. they could have been walking through the wilderness for
It could have been 2
months.
years. Yeah. But even 2 years, even if he was out there and lying on his back for 2 years, I don't think he would be walking the same ever again with that. I don't know.
Which he wasn't. There was still a limp every time he was walking.
Yeah,
just,
but you know what I mean. I thought that was a little bit too much.
Yep.
Even the clawing down the spine and that sort of stuff, I could forgive and imagine that the cuts weren't as deep as they needed to be. Or when that there was someone that assisted him halfway through and put healing ointment on him right before he got dispatched too.
Yeah. The Native American that he traveled with. This was the guy. So a little bit of outside when I was doing my research.
filming.
Yeah, a little bit of meta filming. I was doing my research, and apparently that Native American was just eating bison all day, like raw bison, during all of the rehearsals of the scene.
Ew.
I was just eating raw bison as part of it. You know, that's what he was doing. And Leonardo DiCaprio was given like this red gelatin thing that was supposed to represent the bison liver, and Leo didn't think that it looked real enough. So when it came to, after all the rehearsals with the gelatin, he got them to get a real bison liver and have it inside the bison carcass that the Native American then just tossed to him. And so his reaction was his real reaction to eating raw bison liver for the first time. So you know when he dry retches and throws up. That was his real reaction to biting into a raw bison liver.
Messed up.
Yeah, so when he was sitting there looking at the like Native American, like eyeballing him as he's eating the raw bison liver, I think it's like partly to also like boost his own morale to try and get through this. So he's just eyeballing him, going like, "You can do it, I can do it," as he's sitting there eating a raw liver.
Surely there was a better bit of the bison to eat. Like, why is the guy passing him the liver?
The liver's the best part.
What do you mean the liver's the best part? What
Seriously.
bison restaurants have you gone to?
No, in terms of nutrients in the body, the liver houses a lot of protein, a lot of nutrients in general. It is very, 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 very energy filled, I suppose. It's one of the best parts in terms of when you're looking for a rich source of energy. Liver is the way to go.
Great. That's what he was after. He was after a rich source of energy. It wasn't.
Yeah, he was starving.
Oh, that's the worst.
So the Native American guy actually did him a favor. He gave him the best part.
No, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
That's awful. What will a guy do for an Oscar?
Eat a raw bison liver, obviously.
Yeah.
And get through a bear attack.
So sorry, you thought you're agreeing, yeah? You don't think he really deserves it. He didn't do much. I mean, sure, he did eat a bison liver, but, you know.
In terms of the performance itself, I don't know if it's enough. I haven't seen Michael Fassbender's performance in Steve Jobs, and I don't know if anyone else is going to be really up there for contention.
No, but like deserving, you know. Not amongst this year's.
I think that his previous, all of the times that he's been snubbed and missed out, I think adds up to get him over the line maybe for this. Because if it's not now, it's probably going to be never.
What about the other guys? What about sporting? What about Tom Hardy? What about Domhnall Gleeson?
I don't think Domhnall Gleeson deserves an Oscar. Mm-hmm. Hell no. Tom Hardy, maybe. He was pretty brutal. He portrayed a very selfish but
also understandable. At the end there, as he's running away, you sort of empathize with him a little bit. Suddenly he's being hunted, and he's terrified of DiCaprio, and you really I felt for him at that moment. It wasn't completely black and white. He wasn't completely a bad guy.
Yeah.
He was
just doing what he thought was his own self-interest.
Even so, he didn't see the purpose early on of letting the two young boys die as well. You know, if he could convince them to leave DiCaprio for dead, that would be good. That'd be a win-win. He'd get the money and he'd go away and everyone would be alive.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he does kill the boy and he does try to shoot the other one.
No, he knew it wasn't loaded.
Did he?
Well,
I don't think he did.
That's what I interpreted it as.
Well, see, was he totally a bad guy? Did he know it was empty, or was he a good guy?
It's a question for the ages, Benoit.
Yeah. So I love the setup to the ending when Domhnall Gleeson and DiCaprio are going out after Tom Hardy.
Yep.
But once Domhnall Gleeson gets dispatched and skinned, that was
Scalped.
awesome. Scalped.
Yep.
Skinned on the head.
Yeah.
That was awesome. But then once that deteriorates,
And you know
into
why he got
man
scalped,
on
yeah?
man. Yeah, to make it look like the Indians had done it.
Exactly.
Native Americans? Fuck. What do I say?
We don't have to worry about these things. We're from Australia. It's fine.
Okay.
We screwed over our own natives.
I'm very uncomfortable. So here's a real trick. Can you remember what happened after he killed Tom Hardy? Because from all I remember, stab. He passes Tom Hardy down the river. They walk past him. End of movie. I can't remember.
No. So he sends. So basically, Leonardo DiCaprio says the line, "Revenge is for God's work." Or revenge is for
something
God's
like
hand
that.
and not my own.
Yeah.
And then sends Tom Hardy alive down the river to the Indians. Then the Indians kill him.
Yeah, they kill him, and
But
then
it's
they
like,
give him a
why are
knowing
the
look.
Indians taking revenge on him?
Yeah,
Are they doing it as a favor to Leonardo DiCaprio? I don't know.
because then it's not much better than him doing it anyway.
Yeah. So I didn't quite understand I didn't quite understand the significance of it because I think it went over my head a little bit. I don't know. But overall, with the cinematography, it looked incredible.
but just jumping back a bit.
Sure.
After that happens, can you remember what the last shot is?
It's Leonardo DiCaprio in the...
See?
No, it's his wife.
What?
It's his wife, like, smiling.
And floating above him, or was that earlier?
That was a bit earlier, but
Yeah.
it's the equivalent. She, like, smiles, turns, and walks off as he's kneeling in the snow.
Right.
I didn't understand a lot of the wife, like, appearing floating above him and him hugging his son, who turns out to be a tree. It was I didn't get a lot of that.
And see, that's what I'm trying to hint at here. I honestly can't remember the end, if that makes sense. And it seems so important.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you can, sorry to bring up a poor illusion, but Star Wars, you can remember the last image in your head. Even if you can't remember the last shot, you can remember what is happening. I can't remember if it's him lying in the snow or him going back up the hill or him trying to crawl back to civilization again. It feels so pointless at the end there that I can't remember what the end was.
He was trying to climb up, and then his leg collapsed under him because that was the one that Tom Hardy stabbed with the knife. But
joy.
But yeah. But all right. So neither of us grasped the full
severity of the situation,
or the full meaning.
Sorry. No, yeah.
The full meaning that was packaged into this film. I think a lot of it went over both of our heads.
If there is more meaning at all, I mean, it could be.
There's a lot there that screams something, but I don't know what.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I was going to try and take wild stabs at what it was, but I don't know.
I have no clue.
Taking
what
it as it
we
is-
do have our heads around though is an incredible sequence of an incredible bear attack sequence. What I think is an amazing cinematography achievement. Do you think that looks incredible?
Yeah, it looked pretty great.
Yeah.
Looked pretty good.
There were there were some great.
Sorry, when I say look pretty good, I mean it looks good. It's not like it gets by. It's okay.
And there were many single shot sequences. Some of them were obviously comped together, but single shot sequences, which is Alejandro's, I would say, signature already. And a lot of it was choreographed really well. The action sequences were amazing. The arrows.
Imagine this whole film in one shot.
Oh my god! No, you can't do it with time passing. But the arrows through.
That sounds like a challenge, bro.
But the arrows, like, going through people's eyes and shoulders and chests and like all of the brutality of the violence, the camera doesn't shy away from it. Like, you see it doesn't move as this arrow goes flying through a guy's
It was
eye.
exhausting, actually. Like, the film was exhausting. Midway through, I was like, oh, whoa, I don't know if I could take any more of this, which is really good. That's really good storytelling. You're part of it.
Yeah. And I think that's what I mean by people should see this film, because there's not another film like it that makes you feel the same way.
Is it a date film?
Fuck no. I went and saw this with my mum. And she was reeling back at a lot of the violence. But by the end, like when Leonardo DiCaprio chops off like 3 of Tom Hardy's fingers, and it's just like a really quick bam.
I loved his response to that.
Yeah.
That was so cool.
And mum was just like desensitized by the end of it. She was fine with it. At the start, all of the like arrows to the eyes, she was like, oh god. But the sheer length of this film and the brutality in it, that's all like spattered throughout constantly, really does desensitize you a bit to the end of the end violence, where it's just like, he's lost a few fingers.
Yeah, it's because it's so constant.
Yeah.
And similarly, like all the scenes stacked back to back, you're like, he could never survive that. And I think it went a little bit too far in some of those.
Okay. But in terms of the execution of the film, what was tried to be portrayed in terms of the brutality of that time period, that location, and the brutality of humans in general, both the Americans to the Native Americans and the Native Americans to the Americans. Do you think that was well portrayed?
Yeah, everything was well portrayed and stuff, but ultimately it wasn't really enjoyable for me. And I've seen it once, and when it ended, I was sort of, I was thankful because I was exhausted, but I was also thankful because I was like, all right, I get what you're trying to do, movie. You've done it for me. All right, that's good, done. I don't need to see you again. And I think I don't know if I'm going to get more. I don't know if I'm going to get more from it from a second viewing. Yeah, exactly.
Because I know that there's stuff that I just didn't get, but I don't know if a second viewing's going to make it clear for me.
And I'm not interested enough to go and research what they were trying to do. You know, the Cliff Notes version, what the director's vision was, or what the metaphors and allusions are. Yeah. I don't want to look that up and then go and rewatch it. It wasn't that enjoyable for me.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with a quite low score for such a cool film. 2.5 stars.
So average?
Yeah. For everything it did well, it's offset by the fact that
I didn't understand some of it. Or I did. It seemed incomplete.
It seemed purposeless, although it should have been purposeful.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I feel similarly. I think that the ambition that this film was trying to achieve
elevates it slightly above
a standard average film.
Actually, sorry, let me say that again. Everything within the film, like all the sequences and all the stuff that happens and all the visuals and all that stuff, huge, awesome, great. Would be a 5-star film if we understood it more, or if we understood the story, not just the plot.
So you think that warrants 2.5 stars, dropping it down?
Well, and the other thing, that it's just frankly wasn't enjoyable.
Okay.
2.5.
This is Now Showing.